the Montana Television Network. This is Face the State.
Recently, Governor Steve Bullock and a group of Montanans returned from a trade mission to Taiwan and South Korea. It was the second trade mission the governor has led to Asia in as many years. In the fall of 2014, he guided a Montana delegation to China. And while the latest trade mission was somewhat shorter than the previous, many of the goals remain the same: develop potential new trading partnerships for Montana businesses while maintaining and strengthening existing ties, promote educational exchange opportunities between Montana and Asian entities, and cultivate cultural opportunities. Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of Face the State. I'm Tim McGonigal. One of the key members of both trade missions was Meg O'Leary. She's the director of the Montana Department of Commerce, and she's our guest today. Meg, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, Tim. Thank you.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about your background before you became Montana Department of Commerce director. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, I grew up in Helena, and after I graduated from college in Montana, I thought, well, let's go take a little time, and I went to Big Sky Resort to be a ski bum. And then there were quite a few things happening down at the resort. The conference center and a big hotel was being built, so I found myself in a job there, and then I stayed for 24 years.
All right, and then it's on to the Montana Department of Commerce, and some very exciting things happening early on, really, in Governor Bullock's administration. One of those is these series of trade missions that we've seen. Talk about this latest trade mission in particular to Taiwan and South Korea. Why did the governor choose and your department choose these two places?
Well, the Department of Commerce has been keeping track of Montana exports for many years. That's part of the mission of the Department of Commerce, is to connect Montana's commodity markets, other than wheat and beef and the rest of our ag industry, but all of the other industries that are going on. So we've been keeping track of the stats, and Taiwan and Korea are in the top 10. And there was a little bit of a stair-stepping decision that went on, and it started with China. So once we had China in place from 2014, we knew that 2015 Korea and Taiwan made a lot of sense.
All right, well, he did choose that mission to China last year, and I know that there was a very important person in China, former Senator Max Baucus, now the U.S. ambassador to China. How did that play a role in the decision to go to China? It
did, Tim. We actually, the day that Ambassador Baucus was appointed or was selected, we went to work. I had people at the Department of Commerce saying, we are doing our research and getting ready for when we present to the governor why we should go. While that was going on, the governor was saying, Department of Commerce, get me ready to go to China. So there was clear direction on both sides, and with Ambassador Baucus's help, we had a very successful mission to China.
All right, well, as you look at this mission, and you had, I believe, maybe 8 business delegates, and there were some members from the state of Montana, yourself, and some others, some university representatives as well. How do you choose the delegates for a trip like this?
So when we developed the China mission, we said there are going to be 3 tracks. 3 big reasons why we're going to take our products and our people and show them to a country. One of the tracks was, of course, the governor doing the high-ranking government official meetings. That is extremely necessary to happen in Asia, because that's how you get your private companies in the doors of the companies over there. So the government to business portion is really key, so that the business to business portion can happen. So the governor does his track while he's doing the high-ranking government official meetings. We take delegates, and they're doing their track where they're getting match made with companies that make sense, that are relevant to sell their products to. And then there's an educational piece and a cultural piece, which includes the tourism part. So those 3 tracks determine how we go about selecting who the candidates are for delegation. And the key ingredient to the delegation is to get a cross-section of all of Montana's industries. We're everything, as you know, from agriculture to tourism to incredible artists. So we have to try to think north to south, east to west, high industrial manufacturing, So the cross-section is really important to us. We probably spend more time on the front end identifying the list. Then we go off to our partners, Montana Chamber of Commerce, World Trade Center in Missoula at the university, the U.S. Commercial Service, and we ask them to help us vet the list. We also have private industry coming to us and saying, hey, when you go on the next mission, we would like to be invited. Mm-hmm. The governor has always said, I am not doing a trade mission if a delegation is not going. The reason I want to be there is to open doors for Montanans so we can create more jobs in this state. So that leadership sets the stage for how we go about the interview process, selection process.
All right. It's probably going to be some time before you know the exact success rate of this trade mission, but it's been a year since you've been to China. What are some of the things that you hear about, and maybe some of the success stories that you hear from that trade mission?
China was a really big bite of the apple, right? It's such a big country with so many people, and so it was very challenging to figure out where do we start. Now, Ambassador Baucus and Governor Bullock together, prior to leaving, they had a really great interface and said, here are some of the things that need to happen. Ambassador Baucus said, when they land, make sure everything happens perfectly for them. In fact, Ambassador Baucus met us at the airport, and all of the embassy people, the U.S. embassy people, said not ever has a U.S. ambassador been to meet a trade delegation. So the Governor Bullock, Ambassador Baucus connection, it's a very strong friendship, and that really helped in the success of our mission. A couple of the deliverables from that mission, we had at least 2 inbound trade missions that came to Montana. Now, why is that important? Oftentimes when you return from a mission and you have that country calling you saying, I have some qualified businesses that want to meet with the delegation, with people of the delegation that were here. The matchmaking happens on our soil, and we get to show our product. And you know as well as I do, once we get people to Montana and they see what we have, who we are, then oftentimes the deal happens. So we had 2 inbound trade missions, highly qualified Chinese business people meeting highly qualified Montana business people, exchanging desires and wants and needs and best practices. So from that, we'll see what kind of connections can be made. We also had one of the meetings that we had with the Chinese Energy Department was a conversation about clean coal technology. So of course, coal is always a topic when we're in Asia. And Ambassador Baucus and Governor Bullock had a chance to say, U.S. China have a lot to gain in talking about energy technology and efficiencies and cleaning things up, right? So there was a conversation during that meeting while we were in China that said, well, why don't we do a symposium and talk about this, get the 2 countries together? And we said, yes, let's do it, and let's do it in Montana. So in August, about 200 people gathered in Billings, and it was a really dynamic and robust conversation about what we're doing specifically in this state to try to talk about carbon capture, coal, anything related to coal and the technology going forward. We took the Chinese delegation to tour Signal Peak. We showed them Custer Battlefield. We did part of the Crow Nation Indian powwow. It was really fascinating. And from that exchange, we will move forward into the future talking about technologies that we both can be either exploring together or implementing together. The last one I'll mention is some tourism figures.
Sure.
We've seen, Big Sky Resort has seen an increase in 30% in their summer Chinese destination travelers. So we're very excited for Big Sky Resort, and I don't know if there's any connection to me being there.
All right. Well, now we fast forward a year to this mission. We begin with the Taiwan experience. What was your impression of the several days in Taipei, in Taiwan?
Yes, so Taiwan is an island. It's got 23 million people. We heard the governor at every conversation would talk about how 23 Taiwans could fit in the state of Montana. So that was always fun to break the ice. And the relationship and the friendship is so important in Asian cultures. It's important for us as well. We have to be friends and trust in order for us to move forward into a business relationship. And so that little piece of geography was helpful to break the ice a little bit. My impression is that there is a huge amount of potential. And we need to keep showing up. We need to host them here. We need to keep that faucet running of marketing and letting people know that we're friends and we want to keep going. Yellowstone and Glacier Park are huge conversations. They know that Montana is those two, related to those two anchors. And so after we talk about 23 Taiwan's in the state, then we roll right into Yellowstone and Glacier Park, and that just sets the table.
And once you can get them to Yellowstone or Glacier, then they can see the other amenities that the state has to offer, and maybe some of the other business opportunities as well.
Exactly.
All right, well, Taiwan may be small geographically, but it's big economically. Taiwan, of course, is a big trading partner with Montana. Let's take a look back at that leg of the mission and hear from some of the delegation members.
According to trade statistics, Taiwan is the number 7th largest trading partner for Montana in the world.
From agriculture to machinery, tourism to chemicals, trading with Taiwan has been a big part of Montana's recent history. For nearly a quarter century, from 1988 to 2012, Montana had a trade office in Taiwan. The woman in charge says the timing of the closure was unfortunate.
Taiwan entered into the visa waiver program in 2012. And that's the time when Montana closed the office. So it's quite a pity that Montana didn't take the biggest advantage of this visa waiver.
In a meeting with Taiwan's President Ma, the president told Governor Steve Bullock he'd like to see the office reopened. Any such move would require legislative approval. Bullock says there may be opportunities for other international trade offices.
I mean, I think 40 states have a permanent presence in mainland China. Our neighbor to the north, Canada, is such a solid trading partner, yet we don't have permanent presence there as well.
In the States, we've converted a lot of the steel and the cast iron products to plastic. To these
trade office or not, one Montana businessman who'd like to get his products into Taiwan is Brad Reed. As the owner of Missoula-based Diversified Plastics, he's trying to convince officials at the Dihua sewage treatment plant to switch their components that separate solids and liquids from steel to plastic.
They have a lot of our exact components there, but they're not our brand. And so the components they're using are typically cast iron. What in the States, a lot of people used to use years ago, but have moved on to industrial plastics for lighter weight, for better longevity, more chemical resistant.
And we're able to supply these products at a very inexpensive price.
While he didn't get any commitment from his Taiwanese prospects, he definitely sparked interest, as did Adam Stern with Bozeman-based Resonon Incorporated, specializing in hyperspectral imaging systems.
Yes, indeed, we got a distributor in Taiwan, and they look like a great partner for us. They're technically competent, and we're really excited about working with them and selling our products in Taiwan.
Jamie Ryan Lockman represents Kamut International, a company dedicated to the ancient organic Khorasan wheat grain.
One of the great things in Taiwan was learning of their interest in organic wheat and pulses, lentils, the chickpeas. They wanted to purchase things right away, which was amazing to know of that level of interest in organic products from Montana.
More proof that a trading partnership that has been carefully cultivated in the past will see continued growth in the future.
All right, so a very successful sounding trip to Taiwan, to Taipei. And you know, Meg, when you talk about this this whole trade mission, a tremendous amount of planning on your department's part. Take us through that from the idea, from when the mission starts to getting the delegation over there safe and sound.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, Governor Bullock says, yes, we need to be thinking about Montana exports, and yes, I will go with a delegation. So our work starts with getting very focused and very strategic, north, south, east, west, all industry. Relevancy and being strategic is really part of our mission. We spend a lot of time diving into the list of companies. We share that list with our partners, and then we zero in and we start the invitation list. And that's kind of an interesting scenario. It's kind of like waiting for a yes on a date or something. You're waiting for the yeses to come in, and you know a couple of the companies that will make or break the event, the mission, because the country is very impressed with the kind of delegates that we took to China, as well as the one on this mission. So we really think a lot about that list, and then we have weekly meetings, and it's more than just a weekly meeting. Everybody that's on the team, there's a governor's office of economic development person, there's several people from commerce, there is the communications people, and we're all talking at least once a week, and we set out a timeline. We get very strategic, and if we miss deadlines, we hold each other accountable. We're doing a lot of research about what should the agenda look like for the governor when he's there, how much, if anything, should we include for free time. Remember when we were in China, we went and did the Great China Wall. You can't go to Beijing without going to the Great China Wall, right? So we spend a lot of time putting the process into place, and these weekly meetings are really, really important for us to keep consistent. We reach out to the many partners around the state, as well as back in Washington, D.C. with the U.S. Commercial Service there. And then we keep testing each other, and we keep asking questions. We then run it by the governor, and he'll say this way or that looks great. So it's continual conversation.
Were there any things that you learned from the first mission, from going on that trip to China, that maybe you put into place or changed this time around to help make the logistics go a little smoother, or anything like that?
Yeah, we did get more targeted on our list, so that was helpful. We learned a lot that first go around. Then this time, we actually advanced a couple people. We go very lean and mean. Part of the research that we did in the beginning was what other states do. We're not going to go reinvent a wheel. What does Washington do? They had just taken 112 people to China the month before we went a year ago. And what do you guys do? Tell us about it. The good, the bad, the ugly, the difference. And so those are very helpful conversations. And then, of course, we debriefed from China, and we didn't advance when we went to China, and this time we did. So it made for things like in-country flights or transfers from the airport, some of that logistical stuff that you don't want to have to think about and is not glamorous one bit, but having somebody on the ground makes a huge difference. There's a lot of jumping around the city, and what does that look like when you're traveling with the governor? In Taiwan, we actually had a motorcade with police cars before and ahead and behind us. So it's always fun to travel with the governor because you get some really great doors open, as you know. And I guess going back to the point of we travel lean and mean here in Montana, we had four staff people for the governor is all, and 2 of those were over in China, in Korea and Taiwan, advancing for us. I take that back, there were 5 of us, but the other states around us, when you start asking them who they take, there's quite a few that are governor or agency people. So we're proud that we're lean and mean, and then we're really effective when we're over there also. All
right. As you look at this trip, the Taiwan part of the trade mission, what was the most memorable thing for you?
Oh, besides being on the 89th floor of the 101 Taipei, that was pretty fascinating, and looking at all the jade and being part of their culture and being treated so friendly. The people there are so welcoming and open arms and want to do business with us. I think my impression was great opportunity, and we signed an MOU, a memo of understanding, with Taiwan's equivalent to the Department of Commerce, Chamber of Commerce, and that opportunity there, while it was a ceremony, and it means a lot to both of us. So picking up on that and running with that for Montana businesses. So that's my big impression of Taiwan, is getting after it and getting some great connections. All
right, well, the second leg of this mission took the delegation to Seoul, South Korea, which surprisingly to many is the state's second largest trading partner. In fact, trade with South Korea up almost 22% in 2014 from 2013. Here's a quick recap of that part of the trip.
Montana is relatively new to Koreans, and Korea is new to Montana.
Montana is finally getting to know its second largest trading partner in South Korea, and the similarities are striking.
There's mountains and there's outdoors and many things that could be real compatible for better getting Montana on the map and from their sort of interests and perspectives.
They all have Yellowstone on their bucket list, which is really encouraging, and I am excited to host them when they come to Montana.
Big Sky Marketing Director Lindsay Owens is well aware of the Asian influence. After going on last year's trade mission to China, Big Sky saw a 30% increase in Chinese visitors this past summer season. Tourism isn't the only target of the trade mission. Agricultural offerings from Big Sky country remain in high demand.
Competition for U.S. beef in this part of the world is primarily coming from Australia, New Zealand, especially in the South Korean market. Australia takes about 60% of the market share. The United States has about 30%.
I would like to see more of those cattle on the plates here in Korea as well.
So this was more about meeting already pre-existing customers, listening to what their concerns are in terms of food safety and how we can continue to promote U.S. products, Montana products in this very important market for us.
With 28% of the U.S. coal reserves and 8% of the world's coal reserves, South Korea is excited about tapping into Montana's energy supply.
Because Korea imports 97% of its energy from abroad, and mainly it's coal and oil. And that's what Montana is abundant about.
It's also low sulfur coal. So it's much better than Indonesian or Australian coal.
Education is also a key component of the trade mission. Schools like Handong Global University are eager to collaborate with the Treasure State.
Let's make some joint project to introduce the Montana into Asia, especially in Korea.
Because they see that Montana schools are doing cutting-edge research, are really doing work and teaching and learning that is really have global significance.
It may be some time before the effectiveness of this trade mission is known, but the early results show Montana is making the grade.
All right, well, Meg, as you look back on the Seoul portion of this trip, what stands out there for you?
A couple of things. The first being only 4 Koreas, South Koreas, fit in Montana. There are 50 million people there. It's very mountainous, and so there's a connection to the Montana mountains that we didn't necessarily feel when we were in China or in Taiwan. So there's a kindred spirit with the outdoors, and there's trails all over Seoul and all over the mountains that we were told, and so that part feels really good, and we can nurture that. One of the meetings that we had with a ranking official from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs sat and said to the governor, "We want to thank you. 138 Montana soldiers came and fought for us in the war, and we thank you for that friendship." And there was a hand gesture too. So there is a real bond, and they really, it means so much to them. So there's a lot more than just business that I was feeling in Korea. There's a lifestyle and a heartwarming connection for all of us. There's also great opportunity there, whether it's tourism, again, Yellowstone and Glacier Park. We heard in Korea, a lot of skiers there. So people think about downhill skiing in South Korea. We didn't hear that as much in Taiwan, and we didn't hear it much in China. So we've got that opportunity to market our snow, along with the 2 national parks. The vibe is young and healthy. There was a lot of talk about the different barriers and challenges for getting products into Korea, maybe a little bit more of a system to have to try to work through in Korea. So I think that we did sign a letter of intent to step together in energy research, whether it's renewables or fossil fuels. There's a company that this letter of intent was signed with that employs 650 people, and they're thinking about the future of energy and how we can save the planet. So that's going to be a really great add-on to what we did while we were in China talking about the clean coal piece.
And it got cold in South Korea at night. It did cool, I should say, but very Montana-like in the evenings there.
You didn't feel the humidity like you did in Taiwan, and they say it snows there too.
Yeah.
Oh, the other thing that they really try to emulate and manufacture the outdoors. So I don't know if you saw this, but in downtown they spent all kinds of won to build a stream through their downtown. So natural resources are really important to them. And this stream, you walk down and you meander along a stream, kind of like we do here along the creek. And apparently people go there on dates and restaurants and that kind of thing. So connecting with the natural outdoors is I think, a real opportunity for us.
All right. Well, all of the delegates spoke about how important this mission was, both in developing new contacts and growing existing relationships. Before heading back to Montana, we spoke with some about their impressions of the trade mission.
I think it's been a good trip. I think in speaking to many of the business delegates that they've actually both reached either agreements or deals while we've been over here for a very, very compressed, short period of time.
Probably one of the more profitable conversations was actually with the USDA at the U.S. Embassy, and working on some things to perhaps eliminate some barriers for Montana agricultural products, organic Montana agricultural products.
We already do business here in Korea and Taiwan, so this has been a trip where we've been able to strengthen our relationships with our current distributors and elevate Rocky Mountain Biologicals here in these two countries.
I come to this region about once or twice a year. It is, I'm not going to say it's an expectation on their part, but certainly when you go to their territory, you go to their country, you meet them face to face, it only continues to solidify that relationship with them. So participating in this mission, I think it's critical for the state of Montana, for us as an industry to continue to promote our product overseas.
It's like starting a whole company over again. It's just crazy that way. I'm really just sitting on the plane, even from Taiwan to Korea, just thinking, this is just for our little company exploring. So it is like my dad when he's in the garage making his first sprocket, going, well, I hope this works. I'm putting a lot of effort into it. I hope it works. And same thing, you're putting money and time into traveling and working and presenting, and I'm just flying around thinking, I hope this works. I need to make this work.
We already have a good market share for U.S. beef in countries of Taiwan and South Korea, but I think my biggest takeaway was that there's still room for growth, there's still room for opportunity, and we're excited to continue some of the relationships that we've made on this trip to further grow our market share and be competitive in this region of the world.
I think the results of the trade mission was very successful. We got to meet very senior leaders in both the policy community, business, and academic communities.
All right, well, our guest today has been Meg O'Leary. Very impressed with the trip. I'm sure you're anxious to now really get to work and kind of build some of these relationships.
Yep, now it's all about follow-up.
All right, well, again, Meg O'Leary, who is the director of the Montana Department of Commerce, has been our guest on this week's edition of Face the State. We'd also like to give a big thanks to the Greater Montana Foundation for helping MTN's participation in this trip become a reality. Thanks to the Greater Montana Foundation. And Meg, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. That'll do it for this week's edition of Face the State.
The State, a presentation of MTN, the Montana Television Network.